This speech outlines my political vision for judicial reform in Australia. As an experienced teacher and political candidate, I've discovered the level of political and government violence and corruption against the public to be shocking and requiring attrition and reform. Australian politicians and their government workers are guilty of 229 years of genocide against Aboriginal Australians, and their government violence used against Australian women, children and vulnerable men is horrific. Liberal, Labor, Greens and national politicians are guilty. They deserve to be jailed and their parties deregistered. Significant political government crimes against the public include economic stealing from the public through the fine system, using magistrates and judges to steal money, property, assets from the public, using government ASIC, public trust, mayors and councillors, financial institution and bank superannuation to steal from the public, politicians and government workers gaining economic wealth from their position and Commonwealth pecuniary interests, stealing children from birth parents and relatives, various forms of Nazi-like police violence, government court violence, government prison violence, government bashings, government rape, forced government drugging, which is torture in government facilities and citizens' homes, arbitrary incarceration in psychiatric facilities, which is torture, arbitrary incarceration in prisons and Nazi police lockups, which is torture, various forms of treason, including 457 visas, employing foreign men and women in the government while Australian-born citizens are made homeless and jobless, selling land, assets and resources to foreign companies, people and interests, acquiring political bribes from foreign and domestic corporations. Further political government crimes include electoral and vote counting corruption by current and past politicians, destroying the rights of Australian-born teachers, government drugging and jailing of children, jailing women, jailing homeless, jailing poor Australians under the fine system, government-driven homelessness, government-driven suicide, and the killing of Australian citizens in government facilities. Significant types of government workers guilty of these political government genocidal factors include politicians, magistrates, judges, policemen, psychiatric management and workers, prison management, Serco management, ASIC management, docs and facts management, public trust management, public advocate management, sheriff's office management, medical staff management, any government management involved in the stealing of children for the government, including school management, also land gates management, immigration management, every politician and government worker involved in the rape or cover-up of rape or failing to speak out against the rape of women, children and vulnerable men in society and government facilities. All these are guilty of crimes against the public under the Crimes Act 1914. Certain corporate media people and corporate directors and managers are also guilty for collaborating with politicians and their government workers, promoting them in their crimes against the public. For more than 200 years to today, Australian politicians and their government workers have used the political-made law, government workers and public money to destroy the rights and lives of the public. Every government royal commission inquiry since the beginning of time has proven this to be true. Governments all over the world are guilty, not just Australia. For more than 200 years to today, politicians have used magistrates, judges and policemen with Nazi-like police violence to drive those genocidal factors against the public. Australian politicians have used Nazi-like policemen to systematically hunt down and round up several million Aboriginal Australians, poor and vulnerable Australians, exactly as the Nazis did. Magistrates and judges have violently, arbitrarily imprisoned several million Australian citizens over this period, exactly as the Nazis did. One government magistrate or judge up the front acting like a Nazi government dictator. Proper courts are required to be run by lawyers. However, magistrates run their fraudulent courts with police, which is exactly what the Nazis did. In majority of cases, magistrates use no lawyers and provide no lawyers to their victims. Let me show you a table I've drawn. This is a Nazi process here, and this is how they torture and kill Australian citizens in government facilities. I'm doing other videos on that. For more than 200 years, the district and Supreme Court judges prioritise rapist appeals while thousands remain in prison simply because they have no money. Today, Australian prisons are still full of Aboriginal and poor and vulnerable citizens. Prisons are for rapists, murderers and drug traffickers, not poor and vulnerable people. Such government practices and others have resulted in the death of hundreds of thousands of Australian citizens over this time. High Court judges are also guilty with their deliberate destruction of Christianity, their destruction of free speech, their support of government violence, and corrupt rulings to remove new outspoken politicians. Cases in point include the 2013 Cornloop brothers distributing Christian literature in South Australia, Australian High Court judges and federal attorney attorney generals under Liberal and Labor destroyed their rights to freedom of speech, wasting millions of dollars of public money in the process. The 2014 destruction of federal funding for Christian school chaplains by High Court judges, the blocking of writs filed for government violence against women by High Court judges, and the overtly corrupt High Court ruling to remove WA Senator Rod Cullerton. When our entire nation and writers of the Constitution know that Section 44 is intended to exclude prisoners serving 12 months or more from contesting federal elections. Rod Cullerton was neither a prisoner nor serving 12 months or more as a prisoner. Juxtapose current politicians and their government workers deliberately jail Australian citizens for political reasons to enable themselves to keep power, control and wealth. The face of Australia has changed on account of all the genocidal political government factors stated in this speech. What I call replacement genocide. Hundreds of billions of dollars of public money has been wasted and should have been invested for education and jobs. My priorities for judicial reform in Australia include the following. 1. Removal of all magistrates and judges across Australia, including High Court judges. 2. Replace magistrates and judges with a team of judicial officers in each state to administer court hearings. Must be at least 3 judicial officers up the front in all hearings. So the court system would look like that. I'll explain those diagrams another time. 3. No hearings can take place without lawyers in the room for both parties. 4. Abolish arbitrary government incarceration other than for serious violent citizen offences, which will be stipulated. Maximum 60-day remand period before trial. 5. Abolish the bail system, which is a government stealing money scam. 6. Abolish the fine system. It's a government stealing money scam as well. 7. Abolish government psychiatric facilities and practice. 8. A human rights court in each state for citizens to bring evidence against past and current politicians and government workers. No lawyers required. 9. Closure of children's prisons and children detention centres. 10. Closure of women's prisons. There's no moral reason to jail women's citizens other than serious violations against a child. As long as men selfishly retain dominated political government power as they've done for thousands of years, they have no right to jail women anywhere in the world other than women politicians and government workers for violent offences against the public, excluding women police. 11. A prison in each state for politicians and government workers convicted of using government violence against Australian citizens, excluding women police. 12. Establish women police divisions to hunt down murderers, rapers, sex slave traders and enforce prostitution, drug traffickers and dealers, only stipulated crimes permitting incarceration. 13. Specialised provisions and powers for women police to do their work effectively. 14. Train Australian women citizens to store, carry and use firearms for their own safety and their family's safety. Cap the number of firearm licences in each state. 15. Prioritise education, jobs and housing for the public. 16. Bill of Rights, Citizens' Bill of Rights in the Constitution via Section 128 referendum. I encourage Australian citizens and other political candidates to issue public arrest warrants against all past and present politicians and government workers who have used violence against them and their families. Government violence includes stealing from citizens, violent assault against citizens, torture, forced drugging and forced incarceration, government arbitrary incarceration, government rape, government murder of citizens, relatives and friends, treason, any form of government violence listed in this speech. I don't promote a perfect judicial reform system, only a better one to help the moral people in our nation. Thank you.